In Crimson Desert, there is tons of gear, and the game never really shows you what that gear actually does. It shows you these levels, nondescript numbers, stars, labels, all this stuff. Well, here's the most important part of this entire video. Any weapon in this game can be your best weapon. Any armor can be your endgame armor, your starter gear. Yes, you know, the stuff that you got at hour 1 can complete everything up into hour 40, 60, 80, whatever it is. That's the most important. But there are some additional rules. There's an underlying system. Not every weapon is 100% identical under the hood, but they're very close. And all armor has differences depending upon its material. And that's what we're going to go through in this video today. And then in addition to that, there's another system that can make any armor that you want to wear be the end game armor for you in Crimson Desert. So I'm not here to tell you what to use. I'm going to explain the numbers so you can decide for yourself. So let's break it down. Loading into the game, let's talk about weapons as this guy walks right in front of the shot. So I'm not going to show you the locations of all these amazing weapons in the game. Nay, I want you to understand how the weapon system works so that you can build your attack and your critical rate and your attack speed at a rate that works for you. Because what you need to understand is that every single one of these weapons, whether it's just this simply Glenmore sword or the Sword of the Lord or this sick Maev axe or this Melted Ambition, they all are the same weapon underneath the hood. What's going to matter is how you socket abyss sockets into them and what you're pursuing across the attack speed, and the crit rate. So we're going to take a look at the details of the Melted Ambition. Well, actually, no, we'll start with the Glenmore sword, because we've all seen this, right? It's like the very first sword you see in the game, more or less. We take a look at details, and we're going to take a look at refinement information here at the bottom, and we're going to take a look at what this looks like. So it's 12 attack and 1 attack speed at level 1 refinement. So I have a whole video on refinement and everything like that, so we're not going to go into that whole nest of vipers. Is that a term? Sticking with it. At max refinement, the Glenmore sword has 30 attack and 2 attack speed. Every single weapon follows this same pattern. There's 3 different types of weapon when it comes to the attack speed, and crit rate of them. But whether it's a 2-handed weapon, a 1-handed weapon, a 1-handed axe, a 2-handed polearm, it doesn't matter. They all have the same formula as far as what they become. Either 30 attack and 2 attack speed, or let's take a look at this guy right here. This becomes 34 attack, or I believe crit rate is on this axe, or 30 attack and 3 crit rate. Those are your 3 permutations. Yeah, permutation. That's the word. 30 attack and 3 crit rate, 30 attack and 2 attack speed, or 34 attack. So you get to choose. Do you want to focus on crit rate? Do you want to focus on attack? Or do you want to focus on speed? And then from there, you play with the abyss gears, which then socket in more things, of course. Now, I have a section of that later in this video after the armor. But what I want to now talk about is the stats, because you have these 3 stats as they pertain to weapons, and it's the 3 most important ones: attack, crit rate, and attack speed. It's the conversation that gets kicked down the most on Reddit and everything of that sort. What do I go with? Attack, crit rate, speed, whatever it is. Pretty much the consensus seems to be that for attack speed, you want to get it to level 5. It doesn't seem like there's that much of a gain until you max it out. So go with just 5 levels into that. But I want you to really emphasize here, go with what feels right for you. If you want to have really, really fast attack speed, there is a definite difference between level 5 and the max. So go hard in the paint on it if you want. Now, attack and crit rate are something that are a little wonky. The attack of your weapon will only be factored in if the weapon is equipped and in your hand. The stats on your gloves and your boots, as you probably know this already, but just to reiterate, will never apply to your weapon unless you are unarmed, like in this case right here. Then punches will use your hands, and boots will use or kicks will use your boots. This is the same thing for your crit rate. Both attack and crit rate will only apply to the item that it has active on them if it's a weapon. So know those things. Well, of course, attack and crit rate on your gloves and boots, right? Now, attack speed will work on any item, regardless of where it is on your character. So know that. So to the conversation of attack versus crit rate, it seems to be that the current consensus is getting your attack to 53 first is crucial, because then your crit rate is going to double that. The max for your attack, I believe, is 61 right now. So it's a struggle to even get it up to 61. So just worry about getting it to, I guess, 53. And do that in the due course time that it takes you to do it. Don't feel like you have to rush into it. The way I kind of approach refining and upgrading in Abyss gears is, as soon as I start to feel resistance in the amount of damage I'm doing or the amount of damage I'm taking, I go to increase either my stats up here or the individual stats of the weapon. Now, when it comes to your crit rate at level 1 is a 5% crit chance. That's your base entry point. Then you get 2.5% per level every level after that, with your max being at 35%. And crit on hit is a 2x damage multiplier. That is really nice. Now, in closing on this section, we'll talk more about it in Abyss gears. When it comes to socketing your weapons, right? Because that's all that matters here. You're choosing the weapon you like. The Sword of Greed has the same stats as that Glenmore sword. Actually, this is 2 crit rate versus the axe is 3 crit rate. I think axes have just 1 more crit rate. But by and large, it's all going to be roughly the same. It's not enough to really make a difference. So choose the weapon you like the look of, and then put the Abyss gears into them that matter for you. Just know with Abyss gears, that crit rate can actually trigger any Abyss gear, this one, that has a Abyss skill on it. So Ground Surge will happen, and it has a chance for crit rate to make it do double damage, which is really cool. So you have to choose between Abyss skills or Abyss stats. And it's just going to come down to what you want out of that profile. Do you want more attack, more speed, more crit rate? Whatever it is, you'll then socket those into the weapons that you want. Remember too, that when you dual wield, you'll have 6 total gears that you're taking advantage of. And if you don't dual wield, you have your sword and your shield, or you'll have your 2-handed weapon, whatever that will be, which will have 5 total sockets. And closing point on that though is just remember, certain items will have, certain Abyss gears will have certain requirements, right? Equipable only in armor, equipable only in weapons. So just know those things when it comes to selecting them, which we'll reiterate once we get to the Abyss gear section. But that is how your weapons operate. Very easy. Just know that you're choosing ones that you like and then go from there and refine them. And just feel like you can do this at any point in the game. You're going hard in the paint on one direction of weapon. You get a cool one you like the look of, then just go ahead and start refining it. You don't really have to worry about the resources to refine things and make them better, because remember, you're pulling out the Abyss gears. You'll never use or lose them, right? It's these bottom ones that really start to get hard to refine into. So don't worry about it until you're at that point in the game where you are encountering those top tier refinements a lot. Armor, on the other hand, is a bit different because it's going to depend upon, is it unique? Is it going to help you in certain environments? All sorts of things. Let's bring up our inventory yet again and take a look. So I'm wearing cloth armor, and this cloth armor, when we take a look at its refinement, the max defense it has is 21, but it gives us movement speed. So cloth armor has the lowest natural defense of any armor, but it will give us, again, movement speed. Certain cloth armor pieces will also give us cold resistance. Now, as we take a look at other pieces, anything that says chainmail, by the way, is plate, just so that you know that. So these two, I think, are both chain, both mail or chain of some sort. If we look at other pieces like this Fallen Kingdom armor, going all the way down, we can see that it now has 32 max defense and gives us lightning resistance. So from this armor, we are going to get lightning resistance. But in addition to that, if I'm looking at other pieces, we're going to get attack speed or crit rate. Those are going to be present on leather armor. So we get 11 more defense, but we now are going to switch to different modifiers. Lastly, if we take a look at plate armor, if I go over here, we can look at, if I keep pressing the wrong button, if I go over to this plate armor and we go to its refinement, we can see that it has 41 defense. That is 20 defense more than cloth, but we don't get any additional modifiers. There's no resistance bonuses. There's no additional stat bonuses, nothing of the sort. So this is the trade-off to using quote unquote the best armor. You get the most defense. And we're going to talk about defense in just a little bit and how that kind of plays out in the long term of the game. Just know though, that even though I'm talking about these individual materials of armor, it's worth noting that there are also unique armors that you cannot refine. The Frost Cursed Plate Armor is a real famous one that is all over YouTube, all over Reddit. You'll see that as a plate armor that, breaking a rule, has 7 ice resistance, and it has level 2 movement speed. Only has 14 defense. So this isn't a very high refined item piece if you want to think of it that way. All of these unique items that are, and I don't know what makes it unique over, you know, this. This leather armor of the Fallen Kingdom versus this. Like there's no certain affix or certain little icon that says, oh, this is unique. Well, that is also seems very generic. This also is another one that Soulless plate armor seems like it would be unique, but it's not. So unique items you cannot refine. They typically will break a rule of that plate armor or any type of armor material. So it allows you to jump into different pools. And that's the fun thing about armor. It follows a different rule set than weapons, right? Unique weapons, which we've seen, are all pretty much the same functionality. You're going to socket in different abyss gears. Now you're still going to be able to do that, but notice too that this unique item doesn't have abyss gear slots into it. It's almost like those abyss gears are hard coded into I mean, like they're hard set into plate or any other unique armor for that matter. Like for this one, for example, this is generic and it is considered plate, but I'm using an abyss gear that gives it ice resistance, something it would not normally have. Now, another thing too to know is that most armor pieces will give you 1 resistance. Cloaks are the only armor piece that give you inherently higher armor, or I'm sorry, higher elemental resistance, not armor resistance. So this has 3 ice, this has 5 ice, but that is also unique, by the way. This has 3 lightning. So typically cloaks will have higher natural resistance than any other piece. This plate cloak is going to give us fire resistance. I guess too, it is worth noting noting. I don't I don't have my words all over the place. It is worth noting that some plate helmets will also give you daze immunity. I did say that they don't have anything else going for it, but they do also have that. So now that we see how armor works, what about this right here? Well, defense actually has an equation that we know, and it is armor divided by armor plus 100. So 50 armor, if that value says 50 right there, then it's 33% reduction. 100 armor, which is much harder to actually get to, gives us a 50% reduction. And that reduction is different than the actual stat damage reduction. Damage reduction is going to be an actual abyss gear that you'll get, and you'll socket it into your items, and it will give you damage reduction. Now, defense, though, is kind of like a resistance overall, if you want to think of it that way. So really the sweet spot for this is around 60 to 70. That's kind of a number you can play with, but pretty much anything over 50 is going to reduce damage by 1/3, right? And so if you want to think of it this way, if I get hit with an attack that does 100 damage, then my armor, if it is at 50, the damage will be 33 less, right? It'll be 77 damage coming into me. If I were to do 67 damage, clearly math is such a cool thing that I can do. If I had 100, or if I got hit for 100 damage and I had 100 armor, then I would only take 50 points of damage. Now, damage reduction on an abyss gear happens after that calculation. So if I had 5 damage reduction worth of abyss gears on that same model we said before of 100 armor with 100 damage attack, then I would only take 45 points of damage. So defense really kicks in around 60 to 70 armor. That is kind of like the community agreed soft cap that is easily attainable and is a good amount of damage reduction. The big thing is that defense is good in the beginning of the game. In the later portion of the game, when you have much higher per damage hits, you want damage reduction abyss gears. So while you can stack something like this and have 37 armor on just an armor piece alone, that's great, right? That gets you 50% of the way to your 60 to 70 armor cap. No, this is not, Cliff can't use this armor, but that gets you half of the way to that 60 to 70, which you can then supplement your gloves maybe with, hey, I want to use leather gloves because I want to be able to tap into more crit rate or attack speed. Well, boom, there you go. You're all set with that. So This is how you can mix and match armor pieces across their material type to get more value out of them once you start to hit the kind of soft caps of 60 to 70 armor. Just know too that this is going to be something that you're going to experience, but damage reduction is going to be more popular, or at least a little bit more prevalent towards a later portion of the game. So right now, play with the armor you like the look of, jack it up in its stats, and then just swap over to things as you discover more and cooler armor. Just know the rules that we talked about. Now, one last subject I want to talk about too, as it pertains to all these slots, is your accessories. Accessories like rings, accessories like your earrings, all those things, your necklace, those things are going to be the only thing that transcends its slot as far as its bonuses go. There's no rules to it. It's always going to give you those bonuses no matter what. So you don't have to worry as much about, oh, okay, well, this has 5 attack. Is it only going to happen if I equip the ring around my hand? Like, no, you don't have to worry about that as long as you have it equipped. And sometimes you'll get stuff that'll give you special abilities attached to it. Oops, wrong button. Details. And you can use those abilities to do whatever. So there's not a whole ton to know here about accessories. It's just knowing that accessories are always going to be present buffs on your character. You might need to activate them if you wish, depending on what the situation is. Like this is a real early one that you get in the game. You press this and the earring plays a melody, and using it again will stop the melody. So you can have constant music always droning around behind you. But know too that these typically, as they get better, it's one of the few items that will evolve its secondary. I don't even know if you call this a secondary, maybe a tertiary stat at the bottom there. It says health 0.6 per every second at max rank. If we go back, we can see that this is 0.2 per second every rank. And if we come over here, this comes down to 0.6 again for the health. So while we know these other things like defense and movement speed have moved up on a lot of the other things, but something like this, that tertiary bonus at the bottom has not. Like we look at the resistance of a lot of the armors, that value never moves regardless of its refinement. Accessories break that rule and allow us to have something that is going to expand over time. I guess I don't have, thought I had a ring on this, must be in the bank. And then over here, 0.4 spirit every second. So just to give you a sense of how these accessories also give you an additional layer to sorting this stuff out. So you can, maybe if you're trying to stack a certain amount of defense and you're going with cloth armor, you can use defense focused accessories to pull more out of them. And because I said we would cover Abyss gears, here is a light covering of it. I have a whole entire video dedicated to this and refinement, so I don't want to get too lost in the weeds here. But you can, of course, craft your relative Abyss gears. We were talking about fortification, like the one that gives defense, or Aegis. This one's going to give you that damage reduction. So you would craft these or find these. Just know and just remember that your Abyss gears are going to be relegated to specific slots. This is only equipable on armor and shields, versus this is on weapons, gloves, and footwear. So just know those things again before going into them. And you can also synthesize to take 2 of level 1 tier Abyss gears and make it a level 2 Abyss gear. Or you can take certain surplus Abyss gears you've got and generate them into a higher tierage, stuff like that. Now, first thing you're going to do with any item is create its relative Abyss slots. So you would do that, and you'd create the Abyss slots on the item. So now you've got 3 sockets to put into the item of your choosing. And then you would extract any Abyss gears you have from items you don't want to use, and then embed them into that item. That's, of course, the kind of crash course in how this all works. And just know, you know, all these things can be easily accessed as you kind of socket each one of these things into an item. You can find it in the status screen of your inventory by pressing this. So, hey, you know, I have a food effect item on. I didn't even know I did that, or whatever it is, right? This allows you to have everything accumulate. But I want you to also see something else. You'll see a parenthetical notation over here. You can stack 15 food effect level items, but only 5 of them are going to work, because you have a max amount of these that you can stack. So make sure you're keeping an eye on this number over here so that you don't overstack a gear that is actually not going to help you. And on that closing note, I did bring this up, but just to kind of keep it contiguous in case someone jumped around. If you're looking at your weapons, you're going to have Abyss gears that are going to correspond to a specific skill. Like, hey, this is going to give you a Tor's orb for the Darkbringer. Or you'll have ones that are finishers. I don't think I have any of these that have the finishers on them. There, it's somewhere here. We got a finisher in here somewhere. I know it. But the finishers will happen after you kill something, right? And the skills will only happen when you press the right configuration of buttons. If you dual wield, only the primary hand, this hand, will use its finisher. The secondary will not use its finisher. So it is worth noting that. It is something I discovered in testing things a little bit. So that is something to know. And lastly, too, if you're going to be playing around with abyss gears and the certain types of abyss gears that will do certain damage to certain things or do additional damage from a different element, take a look, too, to see if your weapon has certain affinities or certain imbuements built into the weapon itself. Have that kind of mindset before you jump into your abyss gears so you can maximize what you're doing with them. But the real thing is, what is the cost of missing out on this system? Honestly, nothing. You could play the game with all the items the game gives you and never touch well, you should touch refinement. You should definitely always be refining. Always be closing, always be refining. You could never really play around with the abyss gear situation. Always use the default abyss gears on items and you would be just fine. Don't worry, that's my controller disconnecting. That's not your computer. You don't need to necessarily worry too much about this system. But I think so many of us, when we play these online games or we play these open world games, we want to jump into what item is the best. What's the best sword? What's the best armor? Truly, you can just simply make it with the very first set of armor you get in the game, all the way down to the very last one. So this is meant to alleviate that fear of missing out, of not finding the best one. Just find the one that looks the coolest for you and go to town with it. And if you found some of the cool ones in your own playthrough, like, yo, I was playing through with this suit of armor, but now I just found this one, go ahead and let it be known in the comment section below. You can even shout out where it's at. I try not to have any spoilers in these videos, but if you're sifting through the comment section looking for locations, you're looking for that, right? So if you want to share some of those, go ahead and let it be known in the comment section below. Let it be known cool abyss gear setups that you've worked with. Like, hey, on my weapon, I've got these 3 abyss gears and they all trigger off this specific attack combination and it works so well. All these things are how we get really strong, cool weapons in this game, or really strong, cool armor pieces or bows. I didn't talk about bows. It's all the same rule set, but there's a lot of different fun concoctions that we can come up with. And I think we're just now getting into the tip of the iceberg of what we're capable of. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. If you did enjoy the content in this video, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Each one of those helps me out in a huge way. And also, I stream this game on Twitch and plenty of other ones. You can find that linked below in the description, so go ahead and check me on out. But again, as always, one more time, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one and take care.